I cheated on my husband. I know I don't deserve a second chance, and that my husband does deserve a lot better. I'm so lost, and I need help and perspective.
Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started.
I cheated on my husband. I know I don't deserve a second chance, and that my husband does deserve a lot better. Before I start, let me just say that I already know how much of a horrible person I am. I know I have no one else but myself to blame, so please, don't comment if you just want to give me rubbish, because I assure you, right now, it's not possible for me to feel any worse than I already do. The title pretty much explains what happened, but just for some more context, I'll explain the circumstances. I was at a work event after which my colleague and I went to have some drinks. After having argued with my husband beforehand and feeling slightly tipsy, I kissed my co-worker back, and long story short, I ended up spending the night at his place. It was instant regret. I couldn't get out of his house quick enough, and I couldn't believe that I had just betrayed my husband, the love of my life, the man I vowed to be with through thick and thin. I tried to forget about what happened. I took steps at work to make sure my contact with my co-worker was limited. I also made sure he and I were on the same page that what happened was a mistake and will never happen again. Also, the fact that we won't meet expect in professional setting/manner. I thought about telling my husband we tell each other everything. I didn't know if this would be the end for us or not, but I knew that I messed up and had to face the consequences. However, I just couldn't muster the courage to tell him. I was scared of hurting him, breaking his heart, and also for myself. I do truly love him. I thought I should let it go, not tell him and make it up by being the wife he deserves. I thought I'd live with a secret, and that is punishment enough for me. He wrote a beautiful message for me on Valentine's, and that's when I broke down. I couldn't stop crying, and after he was being so caring and concerned for me, I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep it in, and I told him. He left that evening without saying a word. I tried getting in touch, but no avail. He came home the next day, and after I told him everything he wanted to know, I asked him if he could forgive me, if we could continue our relationship. I told him how I was willing to do anything to earn his trust back. He said he was willing to work on us. I took this a chance which I didn't deserve. I didn't want to do anything to mess this up. I knew I broke his heart, his trust, and that I would have to work extra hard to gain it all back. The following week was hard, really hard. I wanted to give him space. I knew he needed some time to process things, but I also wanted to let him know I am grateful for him not giving up. I would cook his favorite meals, which he would always make excuses as to why he couldn't eat. I don't blame him. I broke him, and I know we can't just go back to normal. I know me being nice to him and trying won't just magically heal the wounds. I'd always put a smile on my face even though I was hurting inside because of what I've done. I know it's my fault, the situation is like this, but I still can't help being upset about it. We had our first counseling session yesterday. His suggestion: it feels like a step in the right direction, but I don't know what more I can do. I don't know if he will ever be able to truly forgive me, and the thought of that is killing me. I just want to know if anyone else has been in this situation and has managed to make it work. I know it will never be the same, but what should I do? What can I do? Again, I know it's my own fault for being in this situation. I know I don't deserve a second chance and that my husband does deserve a lot better. But it's evident that he loves me as much as I do him. And this honestly was a one-time mistake. I'm so lost, and I need help and perspective. My husband has always had a temper, but things get worse after our first child was born. He would yell at me and say horrible things. Once he even whispered to our infant, "Mommy doesn't love you," because I bought a generic formula. He would say he wished he'd never married me. He called my mom the C word. The final straw was when he told me to go kill myself. I was depressed and felt worthless. I joined an online community and a man started giving me attention. I kept things strictly friends, but we talked way more than I should have as a married woman. It felt good to feel heard and understood. I opened up to my therapist about my husband, and she told me it was a verbal abuse and gave me the number of a lawyer. I filed for divorce. A week after I told my husband I wanted the divorce, I confessed to my male friend all that had been going on behind the scenes and that we were divorcing. He confessed his feelings to me, and finally, feeling loved and allowing myself to, I told him I had developed feelings too. My husband begged me not to leave and said he'd go to therapy and ask if we could do marriage counseling. I was so scared of marriage counseling because I was afraid he'd just yell at me after sessions. If I was honest, I retrospect I would have tried it since he was willing and we had a baby together. I moved out. Things with this guy moved way too fast. And at first, I was so wrapped up in feeling like I was being saved from my unhappiness. I ignored the red flags and dove headfirst. Things with AP quickly turned emotionally abusive. Feel free to check my post history for details. Every time I dropped my kid off at his dad's, I bawled my eyes out on the way home. I missed my husband and my family, but I knew it wasn't healthy to stay away. Things with AP escalated until it got to the point where he was saying if I could just have sex with you, I would go back to normal. By that point, I was so desperate to get that feeling of being understood back. I arranged for him to fly out and visit me. We had sex the first night, and it didn't feel right. We did it a couple other times, but the abuse was more obvious in person, and I was feeling the way of I was doing, and it crushed me. I missed my family. This was wrong. I sent him home early. Husband got diagnosed bipolar and we cried on the phone together. He apologized for the way he treated me and started therapy/meds. I invited him over the day after AP went home. I just missed him and wanted to hang out. He asked me if I'd seen anyone during the separation, and I lied and said no. I justified it as a not being in the right headspace to discuss. We ended up having sex that night. A week in, I confessed, and we are struggling to put the pieces back together. I shouldn't have lied, and I feel horrible about it. I went full NC, and I'm only allowing myself to have female friends. I have an open phone and laptop. I am in IC and got diagnosed with ADHD, so I'm on meds now too. I am working hard every day to prove I am not going anywhere and that I'm truly deeply sorry. Things with my husband were on a better track, but now he stopped his meds and tells me he only has a mood disorder because I'm a cheating slut. He kept me up all night last night telling me I can try to change all I want, but I never will. And I'm just a bad person who does bad things because that's how I was raised. I don't know what more I can do. I feel like if I remind him of the verbal abuse, I'm just making excuses. I feel like, yes, I did an awful thing I will never do again, but without meds, he was and is horrible to me. Has anyone been anywhere close to a situation like this?